Hi everybody, good morning. I am glad that you're here today. As you can see, it's rainy out, which is good and bad. You know, of course, as with all things, there's the goodness and the badness. So most of the snow is melting. Yay! You know, which means spring is coming, which is really exciting. So, okay, anyways. So tonight we have got a Narcissism Expert Series, and I'll be with Patty Mason, a friend of mine, who is a self-defense and CBD oil expert. And she's been through the ringer in life and has got a lot of great wisdom on how to protect yourself from narcissists. So it'll be right here at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on this channel. Okay, cool. Hey Amanda, nice to see you. So now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body-mind expert, a Shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women who are in narcissistic or self-absorbed situations, either at work or with family, or maybe they're living with it, or maybe it's, you know, one of their children or their parents, whatever. I help them get into alignment so that they can handle whatever life throws at them, so that they can really become the people that they're meant to be. So today, we're talking about a great metaphor that I was given this week. I love metaphors. I'm an artistic type, so I've got a minor in vocal music. I write, I sing, just all sorts of great stuff. And so I love visuals in my head. I love metaphors. And like all of us who are in healing professions or who are givers or who love or are in these one-sided relationships, it's really easy to get overwhelmed from all of the energy and from all of the demands and expectations that other people put on us and that we put on ourselves. And so, like everybody, one of the reasons I got into this business was because I needed to learn how to figure this out. I needed to learn how to survive because physically and mentally and emotionally at the time, you know, let's say 16, 17 years ago, I was a little bit of a train wreck, not externally, but internally. I was a little bit of a train wreck. And that's what got me on this path, which is super cool. So one of the things that I brought onto my path was seeing a psychologist every week. And she acts as kind of like my mental health coach, you know. And so I see her every week. We get to sit down. I get to, you know, hear what I need to say. She gets to give me great feedback. Hey, Kellyanne. And she's like 30 years older than me. Well, maybe not 30. Okay, that's way over exaggerating. She would be like 20 years older than me. And she's been in, you know, the healthcare and self-care and wellness and mental health industry for a long time. Hey, Carrie. So she's been around and she has seen some stuff. She used to be an advocate for children who had been sexually abused in the courts. She's had her own private practice. She's, you know, dealt with couples therapy as well as PTSD and trauma. So she was perfect for me. I needed somebody who had been around and really knew what was going on and could give me, you know, who was like 3 or 4 steps ahead of me and could help shine the way, which is what I do in my practice. I'm typically 3 or 4 steps ahead of whoever I'm working with, and I help shine the light and shine the way for them. Hey, Tracy. So this week we were talking about, you know, self-care. And she says, I notice you always get a bottle of water when you come in and then you set it down next to you and you don't drink it. I said, yeah, that tends to be a problem. And I said, but I keep it in my car and then I drink it, you know, as I'm driving. And she said, in your business, you don't drink every hour? And I said, every hour? Why would I do that? And she said, let me give you, kind of like Dr. Seuss would, sitting you down. She's like, let me give you a metaphor I want you to think about. She's like, when you give energy, when you give love, especially if you're either in a healing profession or a service profession where you're spending the day giving to other people. Yes, it is so super true that, you know, when you give love, you get love back and, you know, the world is bright and cheery and unicorns fly around and we get chocolate every night for dinner. Hey, Heather. Yes, that's true. But also, when we give a lot of energy, when we give a lot of love to people, especially when we're present, especially when we're focused on them, especially when, you know, we can feel the love coming out of us, that has a physical impact. And she says, think about a sponge on your sink. She said, somebody told me this, she said, many, many years ago. And she said, the visual really worked for me. She said, picture a sponge on your sink. And as, the day goes by and the sponge sits there, it gets dry and it starts to kind of curl up at the edges. Hey, Catherine. And it starts to get all crunchy looking and smaller and really minimized. She says, think about yourself that way. When you're doing energy work, when you're doing healing work, when you're doing service work, when you're in a situation where it's one-sided, where people like narcissists are taking and taking and taking from you, or the situation requires you to be selfless, either raising your child or caretaking somebody who's got dementia or other health issues. When we're in that situation and we're giving so much, we get very dry. We get very dry, just like that sponge on your sink. So she said you have to be drinking water every single hour, especially while you're working, because you become just like that old dried up sponge that's curling up at the edges. You know the one that I mean. I keep one on my sink just like all of us probably do. That's what becomes of us when we are giving and giving, even if it's for a good reason. Even if, there are people who do give back to us. But when we're in the position of doing energy work of any sort, whether it's sacred listening to someone, consciously, whether it's being present to somebody, whether it's sending our love towards them to help them out, when that energy is flowing out of us, we have to make sure, hey, Lisa Marie, we have to make sure that we're always drinking that water every hour. Now, I also like to use CBD oil too, because the oil just feels so nourishing for my body, like I'm keeping it lubricated. That's where all these healthy fats come in too. So I want you to picture yourself as you're going through your day. Notice when you're giving, and notice when you're starting to feel like that dried up sponge. Maybe your skin is starting to feel a little tight. Maybe it's looking a little dry. Maybe your face feels a little dry and tight. When you're feeling that way, think about yourself like that sponge, and you need to lubricate it. You need to get it wet. Literally, physically, you need to get it wet. Okay? So I want you to use that metaphor next time that you're feeling a little dried out, from giving so much to everybody and being in those situations. And I want you to, on the hour, at least every hour, have some water, because it's that water that will keep you nice and soft and springy and available and compassionate and kind and loving and supportive and balanced and nurturing. That's one of the things that keeps us so resilient to all of the garbage that's going on around us, okay? So that's your metaphor for the day. Here's your homework. I want you to notice when you start feeling a little bit of that crustiness, that dried out, that as if you're smaller, as if you're that little bit of a sponge. And so every hour, I want you to have a little bit of water so that you can get that springiness and that life and that love back into you, and you can get back to what you want to be doing instead of feeling lousy and all dried out, okay? So tonight, as I said, we've got the Expert Narcissism series. It'll be a lot of fun. Patty Mason's going to be on, CBD oil expert, self-defense expert, and we're going to have a great conversation for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, because with Tara on Monday, it ended up being 2 hours. We're going to be having a great conversation about how to put things in your life, both the mindsets as well as the physical things that you can do, hey Jody, that will protect you from narcissistic people and from toxic relationships and toxic situations. Because as I've said before, most women do not have the luxury of being able just to cut somebody out, to be able to just walk away from your mother or your father or your child or your job, A lot of women don't have that luxury. And since you don't have that luxury, you have to figure out how to protect yourself from them so that you can stay just like that sponge, nice and soft and springy, and you can feel good. Because you shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself if you're helping make the world a better place by being kind and loving and compassionate, okay? So I look forward to seeing you tonight. It'll be a great conversation, and if you want anything you wanted to know about the endocannabinoid system, about how CBD oil works, if you're curious about CBD oil, if you're curious about how self-defense helps change how you interact with the world, hey Carrie, then show up tonight, free live stream right here. Don't have to do nothing, and you can ask your questions, and you can pick our brains and listen to a delightful engagement between two women who've been through the ringer and know how to make sure that you come out on the other side, not just surviving, but thriving. Okay? Cool. So I look forward to seeing you tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your day.